Today's video is going to be about, I could title this a lot of different things. That's why it's going to be really hard. Like, it's basically about having a dead mom. Because there's a lot of different things I can talk about that involve, like, what it was like. Maybe that's what it's going to be like. What it was like not having a mom. Things that I feel like most people don't really think about, but maybe you do. Weird, like, different things that, like, stood out to me about not having a mom. Mother's Day. Mother's Day. It's a very weird day growing up. So was Father's Day. But that's for another video. Mother's Day was weird. God, I feel like this is gonna help me though. So let me just start off by saying why I'm making this video. Making videos like this where I revisit my past trauma and like go over, you know, sort of like self-reflecting and self-analyzing, like picking myself apart, sort of like helps me understand what has happened, why, and how I can move on from it. If that makes any sense. It's so hard, like, trying to take all of these thoughts that I've had for the last almost 2 centuries and, like, trying to put it into words, especially in front of a camera. But I feel like this is the only way I can accurately get my thoughts, because every time I try to write it down or type it, it just doesn't make sense. So I don't know why I feel like talking about it is gonna make it make any more sense, but we're about to find out. Just a little disclaimer, these videos are mostly for my future self and present self to just reflect upon. The weirdest thing about not having a mom was definitely Mother's Day, because it's like an every year thing. And in preschool, in elementary school, in middle school, in high school, all of those, you know, grade school years, we celebrated Mother's Day, like as if it were some sort of like holiday, like as if everybody were taking off work for it or something, but nobody does. Like, I'm gonna sound super bitter towards people that have moms in this, and that's not what I'm trying to do. Mother's Day was the worst day besides like Christmas and shit, because every year, like, they'd have things like bring your mom to school, then bring your dad to school. I didn't have my mom or dad come to either of those days, any of those years. My dad because he left, and my mom because she's fucking dead. She died when I was 8 months old, so she never even made it to my first birthday. She never made it to my preschool, my graduation. Ooh, I'm not gonna cry, that's yucky. Yeah, she wasn't there, so like, every sort of like hallmark. Not today, Satan. That's like the 2 main things about not having a mom is Mother's Day and special occasions. Christmas, especially like achievements. I think the main one that really bothers me is like graduating high school. Fuck, bro, what the fuck? Because, you know, like, I dropped out for my own, like, I did that to myself. I got into things that I shouldn't. I dropped out. And then I made it back into school. I got my GED. It's being turned into a diploma. I hope you can fucking hear me, Jesus Christ. Ugh, stop being a bitch. So, got my GED, yeah. I'm gonna graduate, I'm gonna walk, and it's gonna turn to a diploma in May. My mom didn't graduate high school. She didn't get her GED. She died at 21 years old. Who the fuck cares? Oh my god, stop crying, you stupid bitch. But yeah, that's probably like the main thing. I really didn't think I'd be crying this early on in this video, Jesus Christ. Maybe I should talk about this. I feel like this is kind of pent up. Yeah, Mother's Day and big achievements are the hardest for me. Like, it's supposed to be the best moments of my life. Graduating high school, graduating middle school, getting married, which I haven't done yet, but like when that happens, it's hard to be, like, excited for things, basically, is what I'm trying to get at. Mother's Day was never, you know, everybody was like, oh, yay, it's my mom, I'm gonna bring them to school, I get to show her off, tell everybody how much she makes a year, like, tell them all about my mom, and, like, tell them all about just having Christmas every year, and getting all the presents from your mom, and, like, having the family all together, and, like, getting to see your mom in the crowd taking pictures of you at your graduation and shit, you know? That's probably, like, the most notable difference, I guess you could say. Basically to where, instead of looking forward to these great, you know, yearly things, or, like, life accomplishments, you kind of, like, don't want them for yourself. Maybe that's just me, but, like, I almost feel like my mom didn't get to graduate, so why should I, kind of thing. Like, I almost feel bad for her, and that kind of makes me not want to do good for myself, because she didn't even get to do it, so, like, why should I? But then again, I could think more like, she would want me to do this, so I should, but I just can't have that mindset, and I feel like that's something. Like, the third thing that's different about not having a mom is, like, the way it changes the way you think about yourself and the good things that you do for yourself. Kind of makes it hard for you to pat yourself on the back, so to speak. It makes it harder to feel proud of yourself. I don't know why. There's probably, like, some scientific or psychiatric reason behind that, but I don't know. Like, suddenly you become your worst enemy. Like, I'm sure everybody is their own worst enemy as is. But I feel like once you've lost a parent, it's sort of, like, amplified somehow. Maybe that's just me, because everybody's different. Maybe that's somebody else can relate. It'd be nice to know I'm not alone. But yeah. Moving on. Emotional detachment and sort of disassociation is a huge, I feel like, side effect, if you will, or a result of losing a parent in general, but especially losing a mother. This video is, I've lost both, but my mother died, my father just kind of left, so they're two different kinds of losses. But I feel like the death is somehow worse for me than, like, the abandonment, just because, like, my dad leaving was a choice, you know? Like, he decided that he didn't want to stick around. My mom didn't really get to make a choice, you know? So it's different. But, what was I saying? Yeah, the emotional, like, aloofness as a result. I remember growing up, you know, kids tend to, you know, act hard or whatever. You know, they don't want to smile for pictures, they want to, you know, they have that phase where they're like, oh, I hate the world and the world hates me, kind of thing. And, like, you know, where you just sort of detach your, I mean, maybe not all kids go through this. Like, it's so weird thinking about, like, other kids and, like, trying to compare them to myself. I was never really connected it to my mom being dead, but now I'm sort of drawing, like, the lines and the dots and whatever. I remember seeing other kids, you know, they were really social. They, like, what I'm trying to say basically is I didn't really have friends, and I feel like everybody else sort of had an early, Jesus Christ, why the fuck? Oh, stop crying, you stupid bitch. Basically, when a kid's born, the first person that they have a real relationship with is their mom or their dad, you know? That's, like, how it's supposed to be. And, that, like, starts the whole socialization thing. This sort of basically starts people's learning how to socialize, you know? Like, you learn emotions, like how to react to things by watching other people communicate. So basically, as a child, you know, humans are very monkey see, monkey do kind of creatures. So the very first, you know, monkey see, monkey do things whenever you watch your parents, you know, how they cope with things, how they respond to things, how they interact with other people. So I feel like it creates a very hard separation from, like, Jesus Christ, fuck. I don't know why this is so hard to talk about. It's usually, like, not this hard to talk about. So I feel like since I didn't have a mom or my dad, I did have grandparents, luckily, but I feel like it's not the same. You know, my grandparents lost their daughter, which was my mom, so they were going through their own grief. So they couldn't really be all there emotionally. And I don't blame them for that, because it's hard to be there for the child of your daughter when you're trying to cope with the loss of your daughter, all because the father decided to leave and the mother's dead, so, like, they had to take on a responsibility that shouldn't have been theirs, basically. So growing up, that's another thing, like, having a mom. If you didn't have a mom or dad, or at least they weren't fully in the picture, you sort of feel like a burden, naturally, because your whole life you were put into the responsibility of somebody that you were fully aware shouldn't have had to have that responsibility. So, like, you kind of carry that burden feeling everywhere you go. Even if it's with friends that you make, you just naturally feel like, even if they're not, like, even if they don't do anything to, like, take care of you, so to speak, like, you just feel like you're a burden automatically. Like, it's like, you're not, I know that I'm not making you do anything for me, but I still feel like just my very presence is a burden. Because, like, my whole life, I've just been kind of, like, other people's responsibility when it shouldn't have been their responsibility. So, yeah. But back to the social thing, because I feel like that's a really big one. It creates a huge disconnect with, like, the ability to socialize with people, or make bonds with people, whether it be romantically or platonically. It makes it difficult to create these bonds, and it makes it even more difficult to maintain these bonds, because when you were growing up, you know, you're supposed to learn your very first interactions from your parents, and I didn't see that from my parents, you know. I didn't see what it was like to have a stable relationship. I did with my grandparents, sort of, but when I got older, you know, I find out that so-and-so cheated, and so-and-so did this, and so-and-so, like, it just kind of opens your eyes to realizing, like, whoa, none of the relationships around me growing up were ever legitimate or stable. It kind of makes you realize, like, I don't know if love really exists, or if friendship really exists, or if loyalty really exists, because I never saw it. Like, nobody ever really, like, Jesus Christ, shut the fuck up. Oh, stop crying, you messy ass bitch. Yeah, those are the main differences, like, that I've noticed. The dreading of special occasions and hallmarks, like special life events, the emotional and social detachment, I can't even list everything that I just went over because it wasn't really even in an order or any sort of list. It was just me kind of explaining to you the main things that, like, stood out, that were different, I feel like, for me, compared to most kids who had a mom and dad, or mom or dad. Just keep in mind, this video isn't for pity. Again, it's just for self-reflection. Probably gonna show this to my therapist too, definitely. Because I can't, like I said, I can't socialize. I don't know how to express myself properly. I don't know how to react to things appropriately. I never really formed those mechanisms, I don't think. I'm working on it. By doing this, I feel like, I constantly have these, like, thoughts, like, I think about all this stuff and, like, how it's changed me and shaped me as a person. But I never can, like, write them down or type them up or record them, because it never makes sense, like I already said. So I figured recording these thoughts, like, while I can articulate them as best as possible, might help me better understand and revisit my trauma, so to speak. So yeah. Besides that, I also hope that, like, if there's anybody else out there that has been through what I have, or something similar, that they can, like, know that they're definitely not alone. Because I know what the fuck that feels like. Yeah, I hope you learned or gained something from this video.